In the Buddha's teaching, the statement, pleasurable sensation is a form of suffering, does not mean that pleasure is evil or should be feared. Rather, it points to a subtle and profound truth about how suffering, dukkha, arises in the mind. 1. Pleasure itself is not the problem, attachment. Is the Buddha taught that pleasant feeling, sukha vedana, is one of the three types of feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. The suffering does not come from the pleasant sensation itself, but from craving, tanha, that arises immediately after it. When the mind tastes pleasure, it often says, I want more, I don't want this to end, this must stay the same. That craving turns pleasure into suffering. 2. Pleasure is impermanent, so clinging creates dissatisfaction. All pleasurable experiences are impermanent, anicca. They change, fade, or end. When the mind clings to pleasure as a source of lasting happiness, the inevitable loss of that pleasure creates disappointment, frustration, fear of losing it again. Thus, pleasure carries the seed of suffering because it cannot satisfy permanently. 3. Pleasure conditions the cycle of wanting. The Buddha explained this through dependent origination, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, suffering. Pleasant sensation conditions craving, craving conditions attachment, and attachment leads to continued dissatisfaction. Even subtle pleasure can strengthen the habit of wanting, keeping the mind restless and unsatisfied. 4. Sensual pleasure is especially binding. The Buddha pointed out that sensual pleasures, those involving sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell, are particularly powerful. They promise happiness but deliver dependence. Each pleasure increases the hunger for repetition, making freedom harder. This is why pleasure is called dangerous in the teachings, not because it hurts immediately, but because it binds the mind. 5. Wisdom transforms how pleasure is experienced. The Buddha did not teach rejection of pleasure, but mindful awareness of it. When pleasure is known clearly, this is pleasant and it will pass, craving does not arise. Such a mind can enjoy without clinging, experience without being trapped. 6. True happiness is not dependent on sensation. According to the Buddha, real peace comes from inner freedom, not from chasing or avoiding sensations. The happiness of calm, insight, and liberation does not rely on pleasure, and therefore does not turn into suffering. In essence, pleasure becomes suffering when the mind tries to own it. Freedom begins when the mind learns to experience pleasure without attachment. The Buddha's teaching is not against joy. It is against the confusion that mistakes fleeting pleasure for lasting happiness.